proposed revisions that always seem to involve less respect for the rights of free nations and less freedom for the individual. These matters would be difficult under any circumstances. They are further complicated by a trend in Western countries away from global engagement and democratic confidence. Parts of Europe have developed an identity crisis. We have seen insolvency, economic stagnation, youth unemployment, anger about immigration, resurgent ethno-nationalism, and deep questions about the meaning and durability of the European Union. America is not immune from these trends. In recent decades, public confidence in our institutions has declined. Our governing class has often been paralyzed. The American dream of upward mobility seems out of reach for some who feel left behind in a changing economy. Bigotry seems emboldened. Politics seems more vulnerable to conspiracy theories and outright fabrication.
You both were members of Skull and Bones, a secret society at Yale. What does that tell us?
Not much, because it's a secret.
Is there a secret handshake? Is there a secret code?
I wish there were something secret I could manifest.
322, a secret number?
There are all kinds of secrets.
Now, as you may know, my running mate, Tim, is Catholic and went to Jesuit schools. And one of the things he and I have talked about is this idea from the Jesuits of the Magus, the more, the better.
Hello, everybody. Today is Monday. We have April 16th, 2018. We're gathered here for another reading of Codeword Barbelon, Jörg Lissman and I. And we are on page 352, chapter 35, Novus Ordo Seclorum, a Jesuit Masonic enterprise. Yes, and I am just waking up here in Minnesota after getting about... 8, 10, 12 inches. Who knows? It's just nuts. I mean, I've never seen this much snow this late in the season. It's really something.
Is Wisconsin far away from Minnesota, Brett?
I'm very close to the border, yes.
Because my mother just told me that in the television in Germany, they said something about Minnesota 2 feet or news or something like of snow.
I wouldn't doubt
came
it.
Down.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that's not where Brett lives. Brett lives in Minnesota, not in Wisconsin.
Right. Yeah.
But that's close to you then.
Yes, it is. Yeah, they got pummeled. We got pummeled. Yeah, we got a lot of snow.
We have about 60 degrees outside today. Wonderful day. Sun is shining through the clouds.
That's
I
good.
mown my lawn.
Good for you.
And okay, yeah, this is how different the same months can be in weather, you know.
Oh yeah, no.
But at least with the weather that you have over there right now in the United States of America, maybe some people wake up to the deception they call quote unquote global warming.
Yeah, no doubt.
How can you have such a heavy winter when the Earth is warming up? Eh?
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But, people don't want to wake up most of the time.
Well,
anyway,
and it's right in your face. I mean, Novus Ordo Seclorum, yeah.
Yeah, let's enter this because it also goes back into 1776. Mm-hmm. I just saw that and I thought, no, I'm not going to pull up Rulers of Evil anymore. I did that already in the time when we were analyzing that a little bit earlier in the book reading, and told you how Tapasauci explained the 1776 MDCCLXXVI.
Right,
and
exactly.
I'm not going into that day.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm going into that, but just in what is written here in the book in Codeword Barbelon, not in what Rulers of Evil said about that. Leave that to the people to find that in one of the last 3 or 4 broadcasts before this one where we spoke about that, I think it was.
Cool. Yeah. Yep, that's right.
And otherwise they let them do their own research.
Yep.
That's also interesting to do. Okay, I'm going to start reading then in this chapter 35. Interesting. Chapter 35 begins on page 352. 3535.
Yeah. Okay.
Countless people will hate the New World Order and will die protesting against it, is a quote that comes from H.G. Wells in his book The New World Order from 1939. And did you check that? I asked last time, I think. Wasn't H.G. Wells the guy who wrote in Megalistic Megalomania?
I
Or
never
what
did,
is it
but I
called?
will right now.
Yeah, I thought he was. That was a book that Tom Friess read, I think, in 2009 on the archives on First Amendment Radio. I thought that was H.G. Wells.
I got
And
two screens open right now.
so the quote once again, countless people will hate the New World Order and will die protesting against it, especially those who have no idea that the New World Order is nothing else but the Old World Order restored, and that you can't protest or do anything about it. You have to have your peace with our Lord Jesus Christ. And then they can do here on earth whatever they want. It doesn't affect you. I think that is one of the most important lessons that we should take out of this. Huh?
Yes, Jörg. So Ecclesiastical Megalomania, I think that's written by John Robbins. John W. Robbins, it says here.
Oh, okay. Then I was wrong. Then H.G. Wells had another interesting book that Tom read.
I'm sure
in 2009.
Yep. Cool.
Anyway, I'm going to start reading in the chapter now. There are 9 curious Roman numerals on the back of the US $1 bill. And by the way, before I forget asking Brett, when you next time send me a care package, would you be so nice to put a $1 bill in there? Because I never held one in my hand.
Sure.
I would really like to have one of those.
Oh, sure. I'll see if I can get a fresh new one from the bank.
Yeah, of an old used one. I don't care. Just to have that, you know.
Sure. Yeah. They don't make them like they used to. Maybe I don't even know. But that's great. Yeah, no problem. That's
okay.
I could use it as a bookmarker in a book I send you or something, right?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there are 9 curious Roman numerals on the back of the US $1 bill near the foot of a Masonic pyramid, MDCCLXXVI. Equally curious is the Latin inscription Novus Ordo Seclorum, found on the banner beneath the pyramid and also on the back of the Great Seal of America. The inclusion of Novus Ordo Seclorum is the current design of the Great Seal. In the current design of the Great Seal was approved by Congress on the 20th of June 1782, 6 years after the formation of the Illuminati Order in 1776. And in 1935 it was introduced to the observed side of the dollar bill as well. The juxtaposition of this Latin inscription with the Roman numerals offers a hint at the deeper meaning of Novus Ordo Seclorum. See again page 331, so you have to go some 21 pages back, 21 pages back in the book, for the meaning Novus Ordo Seclorum, which is Latin for New Order of the Ages, is a phrase extracted from the 4th Eclogue of the pagan Roman poet Virgil, from Virgil's Aeneid, which reads, quote, Ultima cumae venuit jam carminis aetas, magnus ab integro secolorum niscitur ordo, iam reddit et virgo redulant Saturnia regna, iam nova progenis caclo dimitiur alto. This translates into, the last time of prophecy has come to the Cumean Sibyl. A brand new great order of the ages is born, for now the Virgin and the age of Saturn have returned. For now a new child has been sent from the heavens, unquote. That the Sibylline oracle was believed in by several of the founders is evidenced by newspaper clippings from 1788 and 1789. And we read, quote, in July of 1788, the City Gazette of Charleston ran an article called The 10th Pillar, which announced the ratification of the Constitution. It announced the return of the golden age of Saturn. In an article, we see 10 pillars of classical orders holding up a roof. On the roof is a Fame trumpeting the announcement. Fame is Pheme, Greek goddess of fame and report, daughter of earth goddess Gaia. At this point, there are still 3 states that haven't ratified the Constitution, but the 2/3 majority has been reached. It is now the time of proclamation of, as our Great Seal says in Latin, this new nation is a new order for the ages. Unquote. The Sibylline prophecy apparently says that the last age would be the age of the sun god, Apollo, and that there will occur a great year, a Magnus Annus, or more precisely a Magnus Seclorum Ordo, which is divided into 10 segments, over the last of which Apollo reigns. Could this have something to do with the kingdom mentioned in Daniel 7:24, the beast power of Revelation 17:12-13 and 13:15 through 18? Well, therefore, we have to go into these biblical texts right now. I don't know if you have your Bible with you, and we can do that. I think it's interesting, of course, that we see that it says here that it is divided into 10 segments. We know that the Jesuits always like to divide things in 10 different segments, right? Like, for example, in the Club of Rome in 1973, it leaked out that the world is divided in 10 different kingdoms.
Okay. Yeah.
Like also, the Roman Empire was divided in 10 kingdoms after the fall in 476. Yeah. So it's interesting that they always go back to this decimal number, to the number of 10. And could this have something to do with the kingdom mentioned in Daniel 7:24? I don't know. Let's get the Bible and check Daniel 7:24. I mean, I don't have the Bible in my head, but I have it in my hand.
Right here, Daniel 7:24.
I have Daniel open here, yeah?
Okay.
And 24 says, and the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall arise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and she shall subdue 3 kings. So, no, this cannot be, because we are speaking about America here. And 7:24 in Daniel speaks about the papacy, speaks about the first beast. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So that is already a wrong assumption from the author. And then we go into Revelation. Revelation 17, verses 12 and 13. There we read, and the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Well, I don't see either how you can put into America, but of course how you can put that into the New World Order, but not into United States of America. And when we go into Revelation 13, verse 15 through 18, it says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he called us all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. And that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Well, who that man is, I think there is no doubt. That is the Antichrist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Calls himself the vicar of Christ, and who is the man who has the number 6, and who, by his own saying, I think it was Pope John the 23rd, during the time of the Ecumenical Council in 1963, that he said that they all bear the mark of Cain. Yeah? You can also read that in Rulers of Evil, for example. So I would not put these meanings that we have written here in the book to the United States of America, but they are more for the first beast.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, On August 2nd, 1789, the Massachusetts Sentinel published an article titled Rediunt Saturnia Regna, so that must be some Latin, Rediunt Saturnia Regna, that heralded the return of the Saturnian age as the 11th pillar was raised under the Constitution. What is the connection between Novus Ordo Seclorum and the Saturnian age and Roman characters MDCCLXXVI found on the back of the dollar bill and on the Great Seal? Many Roman letters have numerical value and are still used today on watches and clocks, etc. In the Roman alphabet, M is 1000, and by the way, M is a later invented letter that was not there from in the beginning. And you can read for that for confirmation and understand how the letter M got into existence in the Roman numerals, also in rulers of evil. That is all explained there. But M stands, of course, for millennium, mil, 1000. D stands for 500, C 100, L 50, X 10, V 5, and I is 1. Thus, when the characters MDCCLXXVI are added, we get 1776. Here is the calculation. M for 1000, D 500, I mean, it's the same as the values because it's from everyone at 1, and then makes it all together 1776. As we read early, according to Des Griffin, the insignia Novus Ordo Seclorum was adopted by Weishaupt at the time he founded the Order of the Illuminati on May 1st, 1776. It is that event that is memorialized by the MDCCLXXVI at the base of the pyramid and not the date of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Unquote. This is a quote that we read even earlier in this chapter, in one of the chapters of this book. In other words, the date memorialized on the Great Seal, 1776, has nothing to do with America. No, of course not. In 1776, there were no Articles of Confederation, and there were no United States. In fact, America had not even won the war yet. So, why does the Statue of Liberty, standing majestically over New York Harbor, have a tablet in her left hand with just these characters, July 4th, MDCCLXXVI, meaning 1776? Quote-unquote, Lady Liberty was a gift from the French Grand Orient Lodge. What was so special about 1776? In his book Secrets of the Great Pyramid, Peter Tompkins makes a thunderous statement. Quote, the unfinished pyramid found at the back of the US $1 bill says symbolically, the accomplishment of which the US government was dedicated from the day of its inception. Many of the founders of the US government, Masons, and they were Masons, it should read then, yeah? Many of the founders of the US government were Masons, and they received aid from a secret and august body existing in Europe. That is the quote to the Jesuits, of course, which helped them to establish the United States for a peculiar and particular purpose known only to those initiated few. Unquote. Now, this is profound. What was the identity of the secret and august body in Europe that helped the founding fathers break with Great Britain? And what was the peculiar and particular purpose for which the United States of America was established from the day of its inception? Was there shenanigan involved? If so, who was behind it? Now, most of these questions can be answered very easily, and also with the Bible, Brett, and you know where I'm going to lead to, right?
Sure.
When we are going to read Revelation 13, it speaks of two beasts, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And it says that one beast came out of the sea and one beast came out of the earth. And of course, we understand that that beast that comes out of the earth, the second beast of Revelation 13, is the United States of America. So everything that we just read is, of course, because the Masons and the Illuminati, meaning the Jesuits, had a hand in founding the United States of America because it is a beast that serves Satan, as does the first beast.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that is never, ever officially admitted, because officially the United States of America is a Protestant nation, right?
Right.
Only the people who look behind the curtain and see the strings and go from the strings of the puppet to the puppet master that is behind them understand that the United States of America never was a Protestant nation. They were Protestant colonies up to 1776, I'll give you that. But from that moment on in 1776, you had a federal government that was from the beginning Catholic controlled. And every president who did not abide to the Catholic control got killed. Numerous examples you have there.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, we
Now,
sure do.
yeah, the secret organization that fomented the movement for America's independence from Britain and, quote, which helped to establish the United States, unquote, was the Masonic Illuminati of France. For it could hardly be a coincidence that the American Revolutionary War between 1776 and 1783, the War of Independence, was declared on July 4th of 1776, 2 months after the Illuminati was founded on May 1st, 1776. The declared goal of the Illuminati was the overthrowing of all then established governments. Enter the Masons. Liberty, equality, fraternity. Yeah, we know that from the French Revolution, right?
That's right.
The Builders, a classic Masonic book, tells us quite unashamedly that one of the main ignition points for the American War of Independence from Great Britain, the Boston Tea Party, quote, was planned and executed by Masons disguised as Mohawk Indians, unquote. Also something that you can read in Rulers of Evil. Speaking of the revolution, Eliot says cryptically, quote, the plans of the Sons of Liberty, alluding to the Masonic motto liberty, equality, fraternity, were matured, unquote. Yet, the majority of Americans have no understanding of the role Freemasonry played in the two great wars on American soul, the American War of Independence from Great Britain and the American Civil War. The Masonic emblems are paraded before the American people every day, and they don't even know it. Almost every symbol on the American dollar, the flag and the US seal is of Masonic or Illuminati origin. The headquarters of the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite Temple of Masons for the southern jurisdiction of Freemasonry in the United States of America is located on the east side of Northwest 16th Street between R and S Street in Washington, D.C. The White House, home of the US President, is centered on 16th Street, just 3 blocks from the headquarters of the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite. Proof, perhaps, that the center of power for the country lies in the bosom of Freemasonry. And why do these very streets of Washington, D.C. form a pentagram? And why does the White House sit as the base of the pentagram of Masonic architecture? Why do we find in the heart of Washington, D.C. a large statue honoring the founder of the Ku Klux Klan, Confederate General and illuminated Freemason Albert Pike? The immense 6-foot-plus bearded figure of Albert Pike, the Supreme Pontiff General of Masonry, towers over a public square in the nation's capital. The fact that it has never been pulled down is a constant testimony to the influence and power of Freemasonry in the nation's history and its capital. This organization has power in the executive branch of government, in Congress, is a major force in the courts, in the various branches of law enforcement, and in the military. Jeffrey Meyer writes how the Founding Fathers viewed their enterprise when setting up the United States of America. Quote, the Founding Fathers frequently expressed and enacted in rituals such as the Masonic rite of laying the cornerstone of the Capitol, Washington, Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and others believed that the deity was actively interested in the success of the American experiment, calling it a novus ordo seclorum, a new order in the world. Nothing like it had been seen before. There were brief classical foreshadowings in the Republican Rome. Unquote. The Library of Congress has an online exhibit of the construction of the Capitol building titled The Temple of Liberty. The article states that Thomas Jefferson got his inspiration for temple-like architecture of the Capitol building from the Pantheon at Rome. And for anybody who does not know what the Pantheon is, that's a temple in Rome where all the Roman gods were venerated at the time. It goes on to say that, quote, a print in Robert Wood's 1753 book, The Ruins of Palmyra, impressed Jefferson for the Capitol's new east portico design. The print was Wood's conception of the Temple of the Sun, which is the Temple of Bel, known also as Baal, and Father in the Trinity of the Sun God. Unquote. The importance of this sun god, Baal, will be revealed later. Yeah, for that you can also read Alexander Hislop's wonderful book, The Two Babylons. When you get through that, you will have a knowledge of Baal like never before. And I can vouch for what I just say because I read that book in German on my channel. Sorry, I just had to take a little sip here.
Good. Yes, that's good.
In the Mithraic mysteries, the sun god was called Saturn, and his worship was the foundation of the solar temple, whose feast days was the festival of Sol Invictus, December 13th to, isn't that the day Jesus was born, you think, as a quote-unquote Christian? December 25th. Saturn means the hidden one. Saturn, or Salat Kumira, was also the name given to the pagan worship of the Babylonian ruler Nimrod, who was known as the god of the Chaldean mysteries, or the star of the sun. And Alice Bailey's book, Esoteric Astrology, states that Saturn is the lord of karma, and that Venus and Saturn shall rule men during Aquarius. We stand at the gateway of the new world, wrote Bailey. Venus, the consort of Saturn, is called the Virgin, and was the goddess worshipped by the Romans as the Queen of Heaven. Queen of Heaven, go to Ezekiel chapter 8, and there you see that the Queen of, not Ezekiel chapter 8, that's Jeremiah chapter 44, sorry. And there you will see that the Queen of Heaven is venerated 4 times in that chapter alone. And in the whole book of Jeremiah 5 times. I think it is once in chapter 7 and it is 4 times in chapter 44. There the Bible speaks of the Queen of Heaven. Yeah? Likewise, the Babylonians in their popular religion supremely worshipped a goddess mother and a son, who was represented in picture and in an image as an infant or child in his mother's arms. From Babylon, this worship of the mother and the child spread to the ends of the earth, wrote Alexander Hislop in his work, The Two Babylons. Yes, and why do you think, whenever you enter a Roman Catholic church, when you see Mary, a statue of Mary, very often you see in her arms a little child that is supposed to be Jesus? That is the way the Roman Catholic Church likes to present to you the Son of God, the God incarnated in this world, who came to save us from our sins. The Roman Catholic Church likes to picture him as a helpless little baby, or as a helpless man hanging on the cross. That are the only 2 ways the Roman Catholic Church, for almost 90%, pictures Jesus in public. Yeah? As a helpless baby or as a helpless crucified man who can't do anything, by the way. And here you have where that comes from. That in Babylon, the worship of the mother and child spread to the ends of the earth. What are the ends of the earth in that time? Of course, that's Rome. And we know that Rome is the new Babylon. And we know that for sure when we read The Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop, a book he wrote in 1853 and published in 1858. But it is very much up to date. And if you want to have a little more compressed knowledge or information on the subject that Alexander Hislop deals with so extensively, because his book sometimes is really hard to understand, you can listen to Babylon Mystery Religion. I, as well as Brett, uploaded that on our YouTube channels because I read that book from Ralph Woodrow. And no, don't make any comment in this video now, but Ralph Woodrow recanted of that. I don't care, because I did a refutation of his weak recantation of the book in the same playlist. Watch that, and then you will understand why he recanted. Okay? And I think by the time that this video is uploaded, Brett, you will probably have done all the chapters of Behind the Dictators and you're uploading Behind the Dictators. You're not uploading Babylon Mystery Religion.
Right,
yet, so.
right. I didn't think
I'm
I
sorry,
would interrupt you.
I was missed there. Yeah,
No,
that
not
can
a
happen.
problem.
That can happen with all these videos. But you can find that on my on my channel, Juggler66.
Well, if there's enough time, I'll get that one up too, because I'm gonna do. Yeah, we'll just keep going here. No problem. I mean,
good.
Yep.
Now, the Virgin Goddess is today represented by the Statue of Liberty in New York. Also, by the way, as the Statue of Freedom on the top of the Capitol. Huh? Lady Liberty holding up a lighted torch. The statue was a gift from the French Masonic Grand Orient Lodge to the Masonic Founding Fathers of America. It is, in fact, the goddess Minerva, the deity of the new order of the ages, Novus Ordo Seclorum. Just another name for Semiramis. They are all other names for Semiramis. We are always dealing with the Babylonian Trinity: Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. And that's why in Roman Catholicism you also have the pagan worship of a Trinity. Because a Trinity is absolutely unbiblical. Our God is one God. Yeah, okay, it is God the Father, Jesus the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and those three are one, as it's stated in the Bible, but that doesn't make it a Trinity.
Nope, it doesn't.
And if you don't understand that, that is just because the Bible is written also with here and there, leaving it up to a little bit of a mystery, that your little man mind or brain cannot understand divine thinking and ordination. You just have to believe it. When it's said in the Bible, I think it is in the Old Testament, "Hear, O Israel, our Lord God is one." Yeah, that's one God. It is one God. It is no Trinity. Yeah? The Trinity comes from Babylon. As Freud once noted, quote, "The monuments and memorials with which cities are adorned are also mnemonic symbols," unquote. So we must regard it mnemonic symbol. So we must regard it as significant that the Masonic Founding Fathers chose as their mnemonic symbol the pagan, quote-unquote, virgin daughter of Babylon, the goddess mother, the queen of heaven, Venus, Isis, also called Virgin Mary, the consort of Saturn, the sun god, the letter of whom Dr. Kathy Burns writes, quote, is really a code name for Satan, unquote. This is staggering. Yeah. Satan and his queen of heaven. Good. That brings us to the end of chapter 35, and we will continue in chapter 36. Cecil Rhodes, the global manipulator. We start with a quote from Supreme Court Justice Felix Frankfurter in 1952, who says, quote, The real rulers in Washington are invisible and exercise power from behind the scenes, unquote. And from FBI Director and 33rd degree Freemason J. Edgar Hoover, we read, quote, "They have infiltrated every conceivable sphere of activity. Youth groups, radio, television and motion picture industries, church, school, educational and cultural groups, the press, nationality minority groups, and civil and political units," unquote. Has it ever been your good fortune, kind reader, to make a discovery that demystified a state of affairs which until then you somehow sensed to be of importance, but about which you were totally perplexed? Well, that was my experience in the latter stages of writing this book. While doing incidental research on the stellar political career of former US President Bill Clinton, details of two organizations, one called the Round Table and the other the Rhodes Scholarship Foundation, came to my attention. These, for some unknown reason, I suspected were not what they appeared to be. To my surprise, I was right. My research led to discoveries about the Rhodes Scholarship and the major influence of the Jesuits in its creation and on its patron, Cecil Rhodes. A man as important as Cecil Rhodes warrants something more than a footnote in a book on the history and workings of secret societies. Everyone knows that the famous founder of the Rhodes Scholarship was Cecil Rhodes, who lived between 1853 and 1902, a gold and diamond magnate. What is not so well known is that Rhodes was also the mastermind behind an organization called the Round Table, or Round Table of Pactio Secreta, which had its initial roots in England. Rhodes, an Englishman, after making his fortune in Africa, that's why you had the country Rhodesia, which later became Zimbabwe, Prime Minister of the Cape Colony, Africa, from 1890 until 1896. In fact, it was after him that the country of Rhodesia, okay, I shouldn't comment that it stands here.
Yeah.
Well, I just commented this is right here in the book. In fact, it was after him that the country of Rhodesia, now divided into Zambia and Zimbabwe, was named. The Rhodes family crest suggests that he was also a Knight of Malta. Interestingly, the proper name for the Knight Templar Lodge was a Round Table, and as everyone knows, the Knights of Malta inherited the wealth of the Templars, the prototype of the Jesuits. In his goal of creating the Round Table and the Rhodes Scholarship, Mr. Rhodes was aided by his fellow, Lord Alfred Milner, between 1854 and 1925. Milner spent his early years in Germany, at that time the home of the Illuminati, before moving to England in 1869. Milner was the master-elect of the new Welcome Lodge, Masonic. Like Rhodes, he attended Oxford University, and his role was to recruit young men into the Rhodes scheme. As we will shortly see, President Clinton was one of the Milner's young men. The meaning of this term will shortly become apparent. Cecil Rhodes' many biographers have rightly described him as a colossus, but the source of his power and his great success is not at all obvious or addressed. As Miles F. Shaw wrote, quote, "He was an indifferent student of modest abilities who would probably not have qualified for one of his own scholarships," unquote. Yet, Sarah Millen, Rhodes' biographer, tells us, quote, "The government of the world was Rhodes' simply desire," unquote. How then did Mr. Rhodes achieve so much success? Harry Truman once said that the only thing new in the world is the history you don't know. We must therefore conduct a detective-like investigation into the real power behind the man Cecil Rhodes. A fact which is not widely known is that Mr. Rhodes' Round Table was the British chapter of the Illuminati of 1776, in the same way as Skull and Bones is the American chapter. The purpose of the Round Table, says Gary Allen, was that of, quote, a secret society dedicated to establishing a world government, unquote, that would select leaders for a new world order. Mr. Rhodes's commitment to the establishment of a world government was set down in a series of wills. Dr. Frank Adelot, the best-known scholar on the Rhodes wills, says in his book American Rhodes Scholarships, quotes, "The 7 wills which Cecil Rhodes made constitute a kind of spiritual autobiography. Best known are the first, the Secret Society will, and the last, which established their Rhodes Scholarships." Unquote. Dr. Adelot then adds this important footnote, quote, "Rhodes' confession of faith enlarges upon these ideas. The model for this proposed secret society was the Society of Jesus, though he, means Rhodes, mentions also the Masons." Unquote. Now, why did Rhodes model his secret society after the Jesuits, the Society of Jesus? Well, probably from the same reason why Adolf Hitler modeled the SS after the hierarchy of the Jesuits, because, as he said, that the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church is the most glorious thing that he ever saw in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Not an exact quote, but that's the sense of what Hitler said.
Mm-hmm.
And Cecil Rhodes was probably not much different from him.
Probably.
So Cecil Rhodes, yeah, please.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with Jörg, yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Cecil Rhodes' collaborator and mentor, the well-known journalist William Thomas Stead, writes that Rhodes was, quote, a grey archangel crossed with a Jesuit, who was so devoted to his ends that almost all means were to him indifferent, excepting in so far as they helped him to attain his goal. Yeah, the end justifies the means. We heard that already, right?
Yes.
Is this just figurative language on Stead's part in referring to Rhodes as being an archangel crossed with a Jesuit? Or is this symbolic language? Now let us see. Firstly, in the book A Jesuit Tale by John F. Shackleton, it tells us that Laius, a Jesuit, was hidden inside the statue of an archangel. Also, when the Jesuit takes his oath, he swears in the name of the blessed Michael the Archangel, and the early Jesuits actually believed in the cult of the 7 archangels. So the use of archangel by Stead might well be a Jesuit code word. Secondly, Stead tells us, quote, when Mr. Rhodes left England in February 1895, he was at the zenith of his power. Every obstacle seemed to bend before his determined will. Unquote. According to Stead, Rhodes was a globalist who was determined to take control of America. Said Rhodes, quote, the only thing feasible to carry this idea out is a secret one society gradually absorbing the wealth of the world. Unquote. To achieve this objective, Rhodes contrived with his collaborators, Stead and others, to create a secret society that, in his own words, would be, quote, made presentable to the public without in any way revealing the esoteric truth that lay behind. Unquote. I think that is something that also fits for the Jesuits. Don't you think, Brett?
Sure.
Yeah, when you see how the Jesuits are presented in the world today as the quote-unquote godly and Jesus-like good order they put themselves out, it is only made presentable to the public without in any way revealing the esoteric truth that lay behind. Well, the esoteric truth of the Jesuits is only known to the ones who study books like this.
Yeah, that's right.
Who study real history and who read about that. So.
They don't hide the esoteric truth either.
No.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about it. But, if you are, under these doctrines that the churches are putting out there, in effect, you are under the influence of Jesuitism anyway, because the Jesuits have infiltrated your church, if you haven't known that.
Yeah.
And this happened a long, long time ago. So the people that are actually teaching these doctrines aren't even aware they're teaching Jesuit doctrine. It's just bizarre how this works. But that's why we got to do our own research, right, Jörg?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we got to verify this so that we know it on our own and we're independent of everyone else. We recognize it on our own. That's what's so important about reading books like this and studying, is that we gain our own insight into the esoteric truth, as it says here, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a diabolical truth, isn't it, Jörg?
I agree with you 100%, Brad. Couldn't have said it better.
Wow.
Now, continuing. To do this, meaning make his secret society presentable to the public, Rhodes would use several wills. His first will was in 1877, his second in 1882, the third 1888, the fourth 1891, his fifth 1893, and sixth and last will in 1899. Some say there was a seventh will. The question is, what possessed Rhodes to dream up the idea of taking over America and the world? In other words, what was his real agenda? Was he working of his own volition or on the orders of invisible superiors? Stead gives us a big clue. He writes, imagine Rhodes as Erasmus in the skin of Loyola, and you will have some idea of the standpoint of Mr. Rhodes.
Ugh. Oh, yike. I got to make a comment, Jörg.
Yeah,
when
please.
Excuse me, I'm waking up. When you were reading the last page here, and you came across this quote from William Thomas at the top of the page, quote, a gray archangel. I just
Cross
couldn't.
with the Jesuit.
Yeah, cross with the Jesuit. I just couldn't help but think of H.W. Bush, Herbert Walker Bush, when he was talking about 1,000 points of light, these illuminated ones. And I think of the archbishops. Just, yike. Yeah, that's the kind of light he's talking about, I think. It's just incredible.
Imagine Rhodes as Erasmus in the skin of Loyola, and you would have some idea of the standpoint of Mr. Rhodes. Okay. Loyola, you will recall, was the first and most well-known Jesuit general. It was Ignatius Loyola who said, quote, we are called to win to God not only a single nation, a single country, but all nations, all the kingdoms of the world. Unquote. Yeah, the redoing of Babylon, right? Because that's what it was in the time. And it was another of Loyola's acolytes, Adam Weishaupt, an influential Jesuit, who schemed with several ex-Jesuits in 1776 to retake control of the world after their order was suppressed in 1773. Is there a hidden connection here? Now, next on page 64, Stead reveals that Rhodes wrote to him in a letter of 1891 about setting up of a secret society that as follows, quote, please remember the key of my idea discussed with you is a society copied from the Jesuits as to organization. Unquote. Stead further says, quote, Rhodes thought much of the marvelous career of Loyola, the man who underpinned the tottering foundations of the Catholic Church and re-established them upon the rock of St. Peter. Unquote. What did Stead, Rhodes' closest collaborator, say we should imagine? Mr. Rhodes as Erasmus in the skin of Loyola, and you will have some idea of the standpoint of Mr. Rhodes? What was the standpoint of Mr. Rhodes? On page 66 of his commentary on Rhodes' last will, Stead explains that Mr. Rhodes wanted, quote, a secret society organized like Loyola's, unquote. Now, remember, Stead was not only Rhodes' collaborator, but also his mentor. The question is, why was Mr. Rhodes so enamored with, so bewitched, fascinated, and charmed by Ignatius Loyola and the Jesuit order? We shall soon have a solid answer. A second question of equal importance is, by what means would Mr. Rhodes create this powerful secret society that would be presentable, i.e., not cause alarm, to the public? We are told, and it is well documented, that Rhodes put his enormous and ill-gotten gold and diamonds fortune to work in a plan to infiltrate and take control of the American empire. That Rhodes succeeded in this design is seen from the fact that the presence of Rhodes Scholarship alumni in the past and present American government administrations is so pervasive. This fact has prompted many observers to say that the Rhodes Scholarship scheme have produced in America a, quote, permanent party of government in law, business, intelligence, diplomacy, and in the military, unquote. We know, for example, that there were excessive numbers of Rhodes Scholars in the Kennedy administration. But how did he succeed? That will be left to the reading we are going to into next time, because we have almost reached an hour of this chapter 35 and 36, and we will continue next time with the Rhodes Scholarship. But I think there's one thing that we should never lose sight of when we read these about these different secret societies. I mean, and I guess, Brett, you will agree with me. Many people say, what are all these secret societies are doing? In the end, it all comes down to one point. Whether it's the Jesuits, it's the Freemasons, it's the Round Table, it's the Committee of 300, it's the Bilderbergers, it's the CFR, it's the Trilateral Commission, it's the Round Table we speak here of, it is the Rhodes Society or Rhodes Scholarship or Rhodes Society or whatever. All these societies have one and the same goal in the end: a new world order, Novus Ordo Secularum, based on Aeneid's Virgil, or Virgil's Aeneid. Sorry, Virgil was the writer of the Aeneid. That was, together with the Sibylline Gospels, the basis or the foundation of the Roman Empire, of the pagan Roman Empire. And that pagan Roman Empire exists still today. It is hidden under a veil of quote-unquote Christianity, but it is still the same Roman Empire. All these secret societies, they all work on different levels and on different means and with different, how do you say that, different educations, different degrees, and all that, and some allow Jews, some don't, some allow women, some don't, and all that stuff. But the point is that all these secret societies have one thing in common, one thing. They all are working for the restoration of papal supremacy for the whole world. Now, the point is, when the papacy rules the world completely, Satan rules the world completely. Now, we can go into the Bible to finish our reading for today. And I suggest we go to Matthew chapter 4. And in Matthew chapter 4, we know that Jesus was led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. 3 times Jesus was tempted by the devil. When the tempter came to him, he said, "If thou be the Son of God, command them these stones to be made bread." But he answered and said, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God." Next, the devil taketh him up into the holy city, setteth him on the pinnacle on the temple, and saith unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down. For it is written, He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. And Jesus said unto him, It is written again, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Again, in a third attempt, the devil taketh him up into an exceeding high mountain, and showeth him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory of them, and saith unto him, All these things I will give thee, if thou wilt fall down and worship me. Then saith Jesus unto him, Get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him alone shalt thou serve. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto Jesus. Okay? The devil left him at that moment. He could not convince Jesus Christ to fall down and worship him, so that he would give him all the power in this world. No, Jesus refuted that. But there was one man that wanted that. That man became a complete office, and that is, as we know, the Bishop of Bishops, the Bishop of Rome, the Pontifex Maximus, the Vicarius Filii Dei. He calls himself the representative of Jesus Christ on earth, but he is actually the representative of Satan on earth. He, the leader of the Roman Catholic Church, that is based on magi, that's why they call it magisterium, that is based on Simon Magus, that idolatrous and superstitious and pagan Babylonian church system that adhered to Satan and bowed down to Satan and worshiped Satan, and therefore Satan gave him all the power that he needs, as we can read in Revelation 13. Again, let's go there. It says in Revelation 13, I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Now, who is the dragon? Satan. Everything Satan promised to Jesus Christ in Matthew chapter 4, he gave to the beast that comes out of the water, out of the sea, which stands for multitudes of nations, tongues, and people, the Vatican, the Roman Catholic Church, the woman that rides the beast. That one took the offer that Jesus in Matthew chapter 4 from the devil reclined. And all these secret societies are only working for that one goal. So when here and there you lose a little bit sight of or interest in this book, Codeword Barbelon, what we just read, which is kind of dry at this moment, I have to admit what I'm reading here about the secret society of Rhodes, I don't care. The message that you have to get out of there is that all these secret societies have one goal, because they are under the leadership of one spirit. And that's the satanic spirit. That is Satan, the quote-unquote God of this world, the prince of the air. Never lose sight of that, and you will understand this book in a second, in a jiffy, yeah, as they say. Never lose sight of that. Now, I don't know if you have any closing comments, Brett, but for me, I shut my powder for today.
Very good, Jörg. Thank you very much for the reading today. And we'll continue next time. And I thank you very much, Jörg, for that. That's really good comments you made. And I have no additional comments because I agree 100%. So let's just close her down for today, I guess. And is there anything else, Jörg? Or?
No, there's nothing else. Just I hope that people are getting the message.
Yeah,
and
me
that
too.
They are waking up. That they are waking up to the deception that is played in this world, And it doesn't matter if somebody is a member of Freemasonry, or if he's a member of the Society of Jesus, or if he's a member of this or that knighthood of the Popery, or of any other secret society, like I said, Bilderberg, CFR, Trilateral Commission, don't have them. They all work for the same master, and they all work for the same goal. That you have to keep in mind. And that's the message I want to end this reading with today. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
That for the first time in human history, for the first time in all of human history, almost all of mankind is politically awake. And these new and old major powers face still yet another novel reality, in some respects unprecedented. And it is that while the lethality of their power is greater than ever, their capacity to impose control over the politically awakened masses of the world is at a historical low. I once put it rather pungently, and I was flattered that the British Foreign Secretary repeated this, as follows. Namely, in earlier times, it was easier to control 1 million people. Literally, it was easier to control 1 million people than physically to kill 1 million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people. It is easier to kill than to control.
We're at the very beginning stages of a very brutal and bloody conflict. And I believe that we've come horribly off track in the years since the fall of the Soviet Union. And we're starting now in the 21st century, which I believe strongly is a crisis both of our church, a crisis of our faith, a crisis of the West, and a crisis of capitalism.
His son Jesus is here in our midst. His bride, the church, is honored to host an event affirming the dignity of the human person and the sacredness of all human life.
I think Russia is no longer a communist state, first of all. That's very important to realize. It hasn't yet defined itself, however, effectively as a democracy. It is still uncertain.
We're at the very beginning stages of a very brutal and bloody conflict, of which if the people in this room and the people in the church do not bind together and really form what I feel is an aspect of the church militant, if the people in this room and the people in the church do not bind together and really form what I feel is an aspect of the church militant, to really be able to not just stand with our beliefs, but to fight for our beliefs against this new barbarity that's starting, that we will literally eradicate everything that we've been bequeathed over the last 2,025 years.
You didn't mention the president by name, but it was hard not to conclude that that's who you were referring to. Is that fair?
I was certainly referring to the threats that we are now facing with this stated goals of this administration, which would upset the last 70 years of a new world order which was established after World War II. 70 years based on human rights, respect for the law, free trade, all of the things, aspects of this world order that took place after one of the most horrific, terrible wars in history, and I'm for maintaining it.
We are grateful to be citizens of one nation under God, who acclaim this evening that in God we trust. Bless our two candidates, our benefactors, and those whom the L. Smith Foundation has been honored to serve for 7 decades. Guide us safely home, both this evening and for all eternity, through Christ our Lord. Amen.